Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be a little different. It's more of a story time type video than it is a sermon. And I thought I'd tell you guys about the time that I almost lapsed back into transgenderism. You see, in 2007 when I got saved, God called me away from the transgender life, but He didn't automatically take away my desires. That was something that He worked on over time with me. And I mean over many years, He's had to work on that with me. Part of that is probably I'm impatient and stupid, and He's had a lot that He's had to work through. But He's worked on me over time. And before years after I got saved, that pressure was still pushing on me very hard from time to time. And I was having a really bad week where God wasn't really saying a whole lot, and these desires were just hammering at me, just hammering. And I've mentioned in other videos, now deleted I think, that it's the spiritual equivalent of a rotten tooth. And the only way to satiate that thing was to comply to those desires. To dress, to live as a woman. That was the only way to ease the burden. And these desires were pushing on me so hard that I felt like I had no choice but to fall back in. It was just one time, what was it going to hurt, And so on one of my nights off from work, I was on third shift at this time. I decided to drive down to the next town. I'm going to call it Memphis. That's a euphemism. So I decided to drive down to Memphis to go ahead and buy some more clothes. And I got about halfway down, and I thought, what am I doing? I can't do this. So I decided to turn around and go back home. And by not feeding those desires, it just got worse on me. And looking back, I can see it's the equivalent of an alcoholic deciding that one sip wouldn't hurt. So over the next couple of days, it was still just pushing, and I just needed a relief. So I decided I was going to drive back down to Memphis after I got off of work that day, and I was going to find the first church I could and just find an open door and spill my guts to the pastor. I didn't care about denomination. I didn't care about political affiliation. I didn't care about anything. I just needed to open up to somebody. So I got off the clock, bought a couple of groceries, and wound up going back to my apartment. And my downstairs neighbor, Mr. Kenny, who's an older black man who lived by himself, happened to be outside. And he wanted to talk. He was just looking for somebody to run his mouth to. So here I am, and we're conversing back and forth about this, that, and the other. And at some point, the conversation turned to God. And at some point, as he was talking about God, he went from talking about God to all of a sudden speaking as though he were God. I am not making this up. All of a sudden, Mr. Kinney physically was there, but mentally, the speech, he was gone. And God told me through Mr. Kinney at that point, I know it was God from my encounter in 2007. I knew it was God, and He told me, look, we can do this the hard way or the easy way, but I know my plans for you. I will handle you with a long-handled spoon if I have to, but I know my plans for you. Now figure it out. And then he was gone. And there's Mr. Kinney with this beatific smile on his face. Mr. Kinney didn't know my past. God just cut in like that. And he let me know that he was still sovereign and that I could not fall. That despite the struggle inside of me, he was still in charge. So the time I almost lapsed back into transgenderism, there is a holy intervention. Once again, God letting me know that he had his plans, and it was not for me to live as a transgender woman. And I think, guys, that may be the case for some of y'all also. Actually, I think it's probably the case for all of y'all. So, put your trust in God. Let him deal with the struggle inside of you. Find your rest in him. You guys take care, and God bless.